Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Before we dive in, if you find these explainers useful, do me a quick favor and hit subscribe. Give this a like, and maybe even drop a comment. It really, truly helps us keep making these for you. All right, today we are tackling something that I know is a huge fear for any dog owner: tick-borne encephalitis, and the old terrifying myth that it's a guaranteed death sentence.
So, picture this. You find a tick on your dog. Your heart just drops, right? Your mind starts racing, thinking the absolute worst. Well, for one specific disease these nasty parasites carry, that worst-case scenario was believed to be a certainty for decades. But is that really the truth? I am, of course, talking about canine tick-borne encephalitis, or TBE. For a long, long time, the story in the veterinary world was, well, pretty grim. It was considered almost always fatal. It was a diagnosis that basically came with no hope attached. So you have to ask, where did this incredibly dangerous myth even come from? Well, it turns out that for decades, our entire understanding of this disease was built on what you might call a very shaky foundation. So how do we get to the bottom of it? How do we find the truth? Well, we look at the data. And that is exactly what a team of researchers at the University of Zurich did. They launched a massive retrospective study. And all that means is they went back and dug through years and years of real-world case files to see what was actually happening. And that study is the source for our whole explainer today. And listen, we're not talking about a handful of cases here. They analyzed 54 documented cases of canine TBE, stretching all the way from 1999 to 2016. What this means is we now have the most complete, most detailed picture of this disease in dogs that we have ever had. Period. And that clearer picture? Well, it completely flips the old narrative on its head. For the first time ever, using this huge set of data, the researchers could finally calculate the real survival rate for this supposedly fatal disease. Okay, so let's get the tough part out of the way first. The study found that the case fatality rate was 33%. So yes, 1/3 of the dogs in this study did not make it. This is absolutely still a very, very serious and life-threatening disease. There's no downplaying that at all.
And this is the big one. This is the number that just shatters the old myth. The survival rate was 67%. Let that sink in. 2 out of every 3 dogs in this major study survived TBE. That is a world away from the old belief that it was nearly 100% fatal. This means there is real hope. In fact, survival is the more likely outcome.
Now, what's really fascinating is how the illness shows up. The study confirmed that in dogs, just like in people, TBE often happens in 2 phases. It starts with these really vague, non-specific signs. Your dog just seems off, maybe they have a fever, they're not eating right, and this can go on for up to 10 days before the really scary neurological signs appear. Catching it in that first phase is absolutely critical. Okay, so if we know that 2/3 of dogs are likely to survive, the next big question is, can we predict which dogs will do better than others? Well, the Zurich study dug into that too, and found some really important risk factors. The data pointed to some pretty clear patterns. Older dogs, and especially dogs that had seizures, were at a much higher risk of not surviving. But on the flip side, and this might sound a little strange, dogs that showed up with a fever actually had a better chance of survival. The thinking is that it's a sign of a stronger immune system fighting back hard against the virus. And of course, seeing any signs of recovery was a huge positive sign. I really want this number to sink in because it shows just how dangerous one particular symptom is. Dogs that had seizures had a 9.38 times higher risk of death. That is just a staggering statistic. It flags seizures as the single most critical, most negative warning sign that they found in the entire study. But just surviving the illness isn't the end of the story, right? For the 67% of dogs that make it through, what does life look like afterwards? The study also followed these survivors to see what the long road to recovery really looks like. So, of the surviving dogs they were able to track, the results are, well, they're a bit of a mixed bag. Only about 42% went on to make a complete 100% recovery. Almost half, 47%, were left with some kind of lingering, permanent neurological problem, like a tremor or weakness. So while survival is the likely outcome, a full recovery is much closer to a coin toss. So the huge question is, how do you tip those odds in your dog's favor? This quote right here is maybe the most important takeaway for any dog owner. Let's just break that down.
What it means is that for every single day you wait to get to the vet after you see signs, the odds of your dog having permanent brain damage nearly double. Every single day. Time is absolutely everything.
All right, let's tie all of this together. After going through all that data, what are the key practical lessons from this incredible research that you can use to protect your own dog? Here it is. This is your cheat sheet. First, just forget the myth. Survival is likely, but, and this is a big but, you must treat this as a life-threatening emergency. Pay very close attention to those vague off days. It could be that critical first phase. The second you see any clear neurological signs, wobbliness, neck pain, you go to the vet immediately. If your dog has a seizure, it is a code red emergency. And just remember that quote, every hour matters.
So, this study gives us some amazing clarity, but it also kind of leaves us looking toward the future, doesn't it? We know ticks are spreading, we know these diseases are on the rise, so with this new, more accurate understanding of TBE, how do we shift our mindset from just fear to really effective, rapid action to protect our best friends?
And that's our look at the science that's busting the myths around canine tick-borne encephalitis. If you got something valuable out of this explainer, please think about supporting our work. We've got a link down in the description where you can contribute. Thank you so much for watching.